All right. Why vibe coding is in fact not my future. I really hope that the reason is very, very simple. He just simply can't afford the open AI Jippity credits. That Jippity 4.5 is just crazy expensive. I did 2,000 requests for Jippity 4.5, just 2,000 quick little requests with not even a whole bunch of data. Cost me over $200 for those 2,000 requests. It's a lot of money. It's expensive. I don't think I have enough money to be able to use them Jippities, okay?
So, I'm not sure if you heard about it, but there is a new way of coding, of writing code, or should I say of not really writing code. Vibe coding, which is a term that was...
It's true. There really is a new way. And here's the deal. I actually had someone tell me, okay, now, Flip, you're going to have to take out, like, me trying to find this part, but we're doing it. I got to say this. Hold on, I got to also make this smaller, because I just realized your guys' chat's, like, it's just way too big. All right, hold on one second. Okay, hold on. Flip, you got to take out all the fluff. Okay, what was it? What was the thing? Oh yeah, I think I know. Why is this taking so long? Am I having weird DNS problems again? Or no, Twitter's been kind of goofy this morning, right? Has Twitter finally had the come to Jesus moment? Is Twitter finally just eating it? Let's see. Okay, so it's definitely not like I have like no internet right now. It's just that okay, so is it Twitter? Is it Twitter? Is it Twitter? Yeah, Grok also down. Okay, well we'll look at this later. Okay, Flip. Take all of this out. We'll look at this later.
Was first coined by Andrej Karpathy over a month ago already.
Yeah.
But it is also a term that's picking up more steam now, you could say. It is an approach towards coding, building programs, applications, websites, mobile apps, whatever it is.
This is just no code. Oh, I just realized I'm directly in front of the guy. This is literally just no code. Again, that's all it is. Hey, bros, just trust us. You don't actually need to know how to code. Anyone can code, okay? You just gotta drag little things into boxes, okay? Oh, what, you have drag into box skill issues? Oh, that's all you have right now. We're just repeating it. Now it's just prompt issues.
That seems to be becoming more popular, which is why I want to share my thoughts on it and why I can tell you as much already, why I probably won't be vibe coding anytime soon. Oh, and by the way, you can also read my whole thoughts here as an article, not as a transcript of this video or episode, but as a real article I wrote. It's published on my website. You find a link below too, just as a side note. But first things first, what exactly is vibe coding in case...
Who here? Press 1 in the chat if you don't know what vibe coding is. I'm actually curious. Press 1 in the chat if you don't know what vibe coding is. Okay, so we actually have quite a few people don't even know what vibe coding is. What are you guys living under a stupid rock or something? Okay, well we're about to find out. Okay, on top of it, I want to see something. How many people vibe code in my chat? 69 in the chat if you vibe code. Wow, a lot of people have no idea. 69 in the chat if you vibe code. Well, we got some vibe coders, huh? You know, I'm not shocked. I'm shook. But also, I must say, vibe coding might just force people to learn how to code. And you know what? That actually makes me really excited. Press 1 or no. Yes or no. I'm actually there is one thing I'm excited about vibe coding. It might actually force people to learn how to code. Because they'll get like 75% to the dream app and then have it all crash in on them to the point where they can't even do anything. And they're just going to have to learn how to code. Very excited. I'm very excited.
You have not heard about yet, which is not unlikely because it's very much likely that it's just in my X bubble that everyone seems to be talking about.
That's where I hear all of it from, is the X bubble.
Well, vibe coding, as described by Andrej, is a way of coding where you fully give in to the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that the code even exists.
By the way, I literally don't know what embrace exponentials mean. Like genuine, like I'm not trying to be like snarky or goofy or pretending to be dumb. No coy. No one's playing coy here. I genuinely don't know what it means to embrace an exponential. Okay, I like both in the literal sense because obviously it doesn't make sense there, or if there's some sort of is there some sort of claim that I assume it means that due to the LLM producing code faster than you, like an order of magnitude faster than you, that is the exponential. But 10x is not, in fact, not exponential at all.
possible because LLMs, for example, with help of Cursor, Composer, and Sonnet, are getting too good. And the idea behind vibe coding is that you use tools like Cursor with LLMs like Sonnet or, of course, OpenAI's O1, O3, whatever it is.
Can't do 4 or 5 though, too expensive.
And you just talk to Composer with help of tools like Super Whisper so that you can really talk to it and have your audio be transcribed to text automatically, though you could also just write text. The talking part is not important. But the
They really out there trying to make Star Trek happen, aren't they? Computer, tea, Earl Grey, hot. I mean, we're really out there. We're actually trying. I didn't realize it got to that point where they're actually even. I didn't know about Super Whisper. Okay, well now that I know about Super Whisper, this just makes me excited because that means we fully have achieved the Star Trek future that we've all wanted, where I can just yell at my computer and definitely have it do exactly what I say. Does not make anything up. We're gonna get there. It's gonna be amazing, bro. You just can't wait.
The idea is that you don't really care about the code that's generated and that you might do that without even touching the keyboard by really just talking to it.
Nice.
And you can ask for the dumbest things like decrease the padding on the sidebar by half because you're too lazy to find it, to be more precise, I guess. And you simply accept all the code changes that are thrown at you. So you don't use these AI tools as assistants, you don't validate the code that's produced, you don't analyze it, you don't use LLMs as help to generate parts of your overall code base. Instead, the idea really is that you just let the LLM, the AI, do it all, and you don't even care about what's being generated.
By the way, for those that haven't been following along with my adventures into Devin, I just would like to let you know that the code that was produced by Devin, which it's kind of unfair to say it's produced by Devin because it's whatever the underlying model is, whether it's Claude something or another or Gippity or any of these other ones. When we did that, we had Casey review the game code. It was single-handedly the most insane code. Rendering would happen before updates some of the times. When you'd move, it actually happened in the next frame for half your movements, but not the other movements. Yeah, Chussie was vibe coding, right? It was truly just every single operation that was a vector. There was no vectors defined because we let it just kind of go. It never made the idea of a vector or a function to do those operations. Instead, it just made it just raw dogged JavaScript objects with X and Y. And then it would do all of the math inline everywhere. This is a straw man approach to vibe coding. No, it was literally 100% vibe coding. That was prompt issues. Was it prompt issues? See, that's the problem. Again, you're caring about the code. You're making the fundamental mistake again. If you are vibe coding to the truest embracement of exponentials, you do not care about the underlying structure. You say, make me the thing. You don't go, now create a vector2 class, and that vector2 class, let's go through now, let's start refactoring our code. No, you don't say the word refactor. Get that out of your mouth. Right? Like, dude, that's crazy. Like, that's the problem is you're still coding. You're just letting somebody else do it. You gotta embrace it. You gotta embrace this. You know what I mean? That's what vibe coding is. And also, it's terrible.
Give it, and you don't even care about what's being generated.
Hold on. Let's see if we can get this guy in. Okay, I leave. This is dumb. What part is dumb? Hit me. Let's see if he actually left. Vibe coders actually code. This is not the truest embracement if you don't care. Come on, can you defend your position at all? Because it literally says, okay, so I'm going to go to the source. I'm going to go to the actual source of this term, not you, which is not you, which is not that. I'm going to go to the source, and we're going to see, can you actually defend your position at all? There's a new kind of coding called vibe coding where you fully give into the vibes, embrace exponential, and forget the code even exists. Okay, so I want to understand, if you didn't roach out, if you're not like a full-ass roach, how exactly did you get to the point where vibe coders care? My guess is he probably roached. I probably didn't catch him in time, and he roached out hard. I can show you my vibe. Damn. Obviously, Flip, take out all the waiting and all that and just skip ahead if he doesn't. All right, boys, we got ourselves another roach. Just couldn't handle it. All right, we'll move on. Hey, coward. Absolute cowardism.
Rated, right? You fully give in to the vibes, to put it like that. And you don't even read the diffs anymore. You don't understand what's being generated.
Again, who's like back to the previous argument? With whom was the correct definition given? The guy who says that I made a straw man and tried to ruin vibe coding, or the guy who invented vibe coding and says don't even read the diffs? Like what? Brother, we're just trying to talk about vibe coding.
Error man. You don't even read the diffs anymore. You don't understand what's being generated. If you do get error messages, you just copy and paste them in with no comment. Just let the AI do its thing.
Isn't that like what makes Cursor so much better? Is the fact that when you do get error messages, along with what the LSP can do and all that, that it can come up with better stuff. Like, isn't Cursor fundamentally a better vibe coding experience? Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say something also that I think is gonna hurt a lot of people's opinions, which is most people don't read the diffs. They just look good to me. Okay, they look for a couple like, did you name your variables correctly? Okay. Dude, I've had more comments on variable names than I've had on actual structure of code.
And that usually fixes it. By the way, not really my experience. You can watch me fail for 2 hours trying to wipe code. Good, so it is done as it seems. Let's accept all and let's run npm start here. And let's again open it on the iOS simulator. No active missions, but I also got an error here. Maximum update depth exceeded. Yeah, I expected this to actually go better. It looks better than what we had before. Oh, but now I can't. Now I can't enter anything. It just overrides whatever I'm typing. A link is below this video and episode, but I'll get back to that later. The code grows beyond my usual comprehension. I'd have to really read through it for a while, so it's getting more complex and you don't really know what's happening. And sometimes the LLM can't fix a bug, so you just work around it or ask for random changes. So put in other words, you either ignore it and say, I don't need that feature. Let's maybe instead build it like this. Not really what I wanted, but at least that works. Something like that. Or you just try out random stuff until something seems to work the way you want it to work. At least that's how I understand this. Until the error goes away. It's not too bad for throwaway weekend projects, but still quite amusing. So Andre actually says that he doesn't vibe code for any real projects, but just for these dumb side projects, which we all have. By the way,
is that even, like, again, I always come back to this, is that even an efficient or good approach? Because obviously when we listen to the Y Combinator thing, the Y Combinator podcast is saying that all these startup founders are actually doing vibe coding, and they're doing it for real, like, projects in which VC people are putting in money. Isn't the point of most little weekend projects the learning anyways? That's what, I mean, see, that's why I'm just so confused, because this actually makes it, like, I guess I never read the bottom half of this. I'm actually confused, because why would you do your throwaway weekend project? Why would you take your exploration and not learn anything and just, I mean, I guess if you're just trying to, like, maybe look at a new user interface, maybe you're trying to, I don't know, I'm just trying to, like, I'm just vibing here. I'm just trying to think of, like, what would be the purpose of a weekend project in which you're throwing away, in which you also don't learn anything from. I guess maybe the thing you'd probably look at it for is maybe for your job. Maybe you could try to make some sort of, like, maybe it's just like a huge ass pain to create something that actually works within the whole pipeline. So it's just like, hey, we're gonna take this whole pipeline and instead I'm just gonna throw a bunch of crap code at it and try to see what does it feel like in the whole website, and then toss everything away afterwards just to kind of get a feel for the idea. But again, I always return to the exact same thing, which is it might just be easier just to do it yourself. I'm still just confused as, like, the actual point of it. It's like throwing paint on a canvas, except for it takes a whole weekend. It's slow. It can be pretty frustrating, and you could just, like, not. You could just always just do it. Also, like that's like totally an option. You could just do it. I know this sounds crazy, but, like, it's also just Your hands and your brain probably has the capability as well.
For me, at least.
Maybe a vibe coding is worthy for an MVP. Is it? Because you got to remember, what does MVP stand for? MVP stands for word for word. Hear me out. I'm going to maintain this in production now because I'm going to hand it out to people to use, and therefore everything that I've ever generated and all my ideas are now going to be the weight upon my shoulders. That's like literally what MVP stands for. So, thinking through what MVP stands for and then using that as something you want to toss on yourself, it just sounds like it honestly sounds awful. Maybe it's just for prototyping. Again, like I really want to understand the purpose of it, because I guess I've never prototyped. I've never prototyped something that's taken more than a few hours. Usually the prototyping is the easiest part. Working with all the services that I work with once every 6 months, or anything that I have, any third-party thing that I want to hook into that I just have low experience in, that takes 98% of the time. And the other 2% of the time is the actual programming side of things.
Part of having fun with side projects
feels like programming's
that
the
I
easy
get
part.
to dive into the code, that I get to try out new libraries, frameworks, programming languages, patterns, so that I get to hone my skills and improve. But of course, doesn't have to be that way for everyone. I'm building a project or web app, but it's not really coding. I just see stuff, say stuff, run stuff, and copy and paste stuff, and it mostly works. That is vibe coding. And again, this is not super new. Andre posted this at the beginning of February 2025, but it's picking up more steam.
I'd say the more confusing part is that just why Combinator's like, not only are they saying that it's a good idea, Y Combinator actually had a founder. Like, I want you guys to think about this. Y Combinator is in the business of making money. They make money off of your ideas. That's like, they hand you money so that you can work full time, potentially under some pretty crazy conditions, like living in a house with 6 dudes so you guys can all work together and make a thing. That literally happens in San Francisco. But the trade-off is that hopefully one day that thing is worth like $1 billion and you get to make a whole bunch of money, right? So Y Combinator is literally there to make money off of your ideas, right? They give you the money so that you can do it, and then they get to reap the benefit without all the kind of like emotional burden that you get to go through. Like, that's kind of the whole idea. And they literally gave somebody money who said the following phrase: vibe coding has made me 100x faster. No, notice that they didn't say 10x faster. Notice they didn't even say twice as fast. They said 100x faster. I am just shocked that they got money. That's crazy. 100x faster. I want to know more about this. Like, what type of engineer do you have to be to see 100x improvement? I gotta meet this guy. Does he know what an if statement is?
Also, because we have Peter Levels, of course, who else? And he built a flight simulator, a web-based flight simulator.
By the way, can you even call this a flight simulator? Is that even appropriate to call this a flight simulator? I don't think you can call this a flight simulator. It's a game with airplanes. A simulator typically tries to take the real world and try to like make it something into a game so you can understand what it feels like. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay. Not only do I have to like turn this, I also have to like then push in whatever the bottom feet are to be able to like bank into the turn, right?
Vibe coding way, as it seems. So he describes this across various posts, and he essentially says that he used Cursor and just kept on asking for new features, bugs to be fixed, and so on. And he built a flight simulator with JavaScript and Three.js, which runs in the browser. Now, I will say that this flight simulator does not just look the way it looks, but of course, that could also be a deliberate artistic decision, I guess. But it, for example, also included at least one cross-site scripting attack vulnerability when it shipped, or maybe it was introduced with one of the additional features being added, but it included such a vulnerability at one point. Nonetheless, of course, it's pretty amazing that you can build an entire game, no matter how complex or good looking it may be or may not be, that you can build an entire game, host it, have people play it, and because it's Peter Levels with all his reputation and status, also have people pay for it, pay a lot.
That's sweet. Hey, that part. Hey, you know what? Hey, Levels. Well done, Levels. You know what I'm talking about? Like that. Hey, well done. You got people to pay thousands of dollars a month to put their name in a game. You know, like honestly, can anybody knock him for that? Dude, Peter Levels getting that bag. He's made more than most indie devs.
For advertising, owning planets, and all that stuff. Now, you can debate whether that is something most of us could achieve. I'd argue it comes down to Peter Levels being Peter Levels and the almost cult-like followership he has and the reach he has, but that's not the topic of this video. Vibe coding definitely is a thing. You can vibe code your way to games like this. There also have been other games that have been shared on X, other browser-based games that look similar, to be honest, but
like
that
Chussie.
Also were created the vibe-coded way, and so on. Now, here's the thing. For one, of course, I don't really know. I can't tell
was a great
whether
example
all these projects have really been fully vibe-coded. It is, of course, possible that they have been created by people who know how to code. For Peter Levels, that's definitely the case.
My guess is that he had to intercede several times on things that he understood. I think one of the big things that people don't... I think one of the greatest parts about AI is the fact that you can be maybe a mid-level or an expert in one domain, and you can have like a pretty serious domain transfer when it comes to using an AI. Now, maybe you're not going to structure it good, right? Because you don't have the experience. But me, a layman, in, say, the game programming, the game world, like I could calculate the angle between two things and be able to get stuff. Like I could probably make a gun that points at some object as it moves around. And I can't quite remember all of that code. It's been like a decade and a half since I've done any sort of game programming. I know there's probably an Arctan 2 is my guess somewhere in there. And you're going to have to normalize a vector. Maybe we could use some quaternions if we wanted to, right? Like there's all sorts of stuff that we could use to be able to do that. I can no longer hand do the math for quaternions like I used to be able to. And so there's that, right? Like at one point I could do that, but now I'm kind of like I'm a layman now. Now I have no idea what I'd be doing. But at the exact same time, I could have an AI effectively make me run through that really, really fast, despite me probably using the less efficient algorithms. I'd probably do all the wrong things, but I could get much further because I'd have some level of domain transfer, which I think is actually pretty cool. I think that's like, I like that part about AI because I can take my expertise, say, in organizing software and try to do my best in another domain and maybe get further than I ever could have in some reasonable amount of time. Maybe. But that's all hypothesis. I think in the end, there's no substitute for just learning, right? I think at the end of the day, learning is just like the thing. Yeah, he learned the difference in TCP and UDP to remove the jittery shit. He never knew it before. Speedrunning experience. Yeah, like you get kind of some good things with it. Obviously, UDP has its own whole like problem that he's probably unaware of. But nonetheless, he did learn that there is this whole thing called UDP, which can be really nice for live updating games in which you're not really super concerned about the player and all that. Like, I'm assuming he's not like, you know what, this needs to be a frame perfect game in which we are, ensuring that all people are considered even along with their leg and we're doing predictive movement. Like, nah, he's probably just enjoying, yeah, we'll just spam up some UDP and hopefully we'll update people properly though.
And they may be vibe-coded most parts of the game, but not all of it. And of course, the problem with vibe coding, at least for people who don't know how to code, is that it's a 1 or 0 thing. You can either use it for everything or not at all, because getting there 90% of the way, if the other 10% are crucial and the game won't even run without you fixing those remaining 10%, doesn't get you anything. Now, of course, you could also argue that LLMs will...
By the way, that's such a good point. If an LLM can only get you 90% of the way, really it did the easiest part, and that last 10% requires you to gather all the experience and everything the LLM has done up until that point, and then carry it across the remaining thing. There's actually something that's kind of a very amazing. Yeah, it's the second 90%. The first 90% is the fun 90%, which you're now handing to an LLM. The second 90%, which is the unfun 90%, is the one you get to do.
Will get better, and therefore that's not really my main thing here. You can maybe vibe code your way to complete applications, games, websites, and so on. Though again, it definitely has not been my experience. I live streamed my attempt of vibe coding a very simple mobile app with React Native, and I failed. It looked horrible, it had bugs. You can watch the entire live stream or the shortened version, both is linked below this video and episode, and I was not able to get it to work. Trying the vibe coding approach. I did not really write any code, I just kept asking and did not get what I wanted.
I just don't think that's
now,
tenable.
To be fair, I could have, of course,
you have to intercede.
asked more. I could have kept going. I quit after 2 hours. I could have tried to fix all the things, and maybe I would have gotten the app I wanted after a few more hours. But here's my main problem with vibe coding. I don't want to spend a few hours, or maybe also many hours, asking and asking and asking and fixing bugs by asking and describing what's wrong. I'm far more productive if I just write the code, because
and not only that, you get to go from this language in which is really imprecise. Like when you try to describe a problem, you got to remember how much context you're putting into every single word you say, versus when you write a program, every single thing you write is perfectly described. Now, it may be perfectly incorrect, but nonetheless, it's still perfectly described. There's no missing context, right? You can't just, like, things can't be alternatively understood. There's only one understanding of the language you're using. Whereas when you use English or whatever speaking language you choose, it is exceptionally imprecise comparatively.
Because I know how to code. I have a plan. I know which code I want to write. Why would I ask an LLM to generate what I know how to write?
Yeah.
Sure, in a perfect world with perfect code, it might be quicker for the LLM to generate it instead of me writing it, but here's the thing. When I say write it, I of course don't mean type every single character. Instead, before AI already, and now even more with AI assistants like Cursor, GitHub Copilot, and all the other tools we have.
By the way, I have turned Copilot back off. Honestly, I got so sick of it. Copilot is just junk. It's just junk. It's slow. It's incorrect like 50% of the time. Dude, it is just junk. I finally decided, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. You know what? I'm the wrong one. And so I better try it. Dude, I was wrong. So apparently Super Maven's better. TJ keeps talking about Super Maven. I will try Super Maven out. But man, dude, it was just junk.
In that world, I don't write all the characters, right? We never did that as developers. We just type a few characters, use autocompletion. Now with AI, we can autocomplete entire...
To be completely fair, even that experience is relatively novel. In the term of coding. If coding truly existed since Fortran, so that would be 1959 if I'm not mistaken. Let's just say 1960 to make it easy. If 1960 is the birth of coding, we'll call it, that means, even though I know that's not, just shut up. There's like the whole like Z1 language and all that in like what 30s, but let's just pretend 1960 is the beginning of programming. That means we would have from 1960 to 2000, there was no LSP. From 2000 to 2010, there's no LSP. From 2010 to 2015, there's still no LSP. So this idea of even autocomplete being freely available for all languages everywhere, like that also just didn't really even exist for most of programming. So even the idea of autocomplete is a relatively novel experience comparatively, right? And then even when the LSP went live, it still wasn't even adopted fully for many more years after that. So it's a relatively new concept. And certain editors had it earlier, like NetBeans had autocompletion for Java. It actually did not a bad job for PHP. It actually did some pretty good jobs for a few languages, and that's why I used NetBeans in the 2009, 2010. It's because I got decent autocompletion. Eclipse,
blocks, get
VS
smart
Code had
suggestions.
it. Right?
I am using AI as an assistant. It's amazing for that. It definitely speeds me up. But still, I'm in charge. I know what I want to write. I know where I want to go. I know the general code I want to have. And therefore, I feel like I'm getting the best of both worlds. I lead the AI, so to say. I start writing the code and I let the AI help me. I let the AI complete parts of that code. I will also say that those
I'm still not even
assistants can
there.
also fail you. Frequently, I have suggestions which I don't want to accept because it's not the code I wanted. But there are enough occasions where it is the code I need, and therefore I'm definitely quicker.
I haven't even got to that point. Maybe I need to try a new. I think it's probably just time for me to try a new experience. Maybe it is time for me to do a cursor experience because maybe that would fix. Maybe that would fix me. Maybe cursor could fix him. But right now, I just haven't had that experience. Right now, the use of AI is just tremendously slower than me doing it myself because every single time I have to do it, I then have to review the code. It's like reviewing is slower than typing. Understanding the context in which they built is slower than me just building the context myself. And it's like this like kind of slow build up. It takes a while. You know what I mean? It takes a while. It takes longer than just me just typing it because I can, just like John Carmack, I can type fast. It's easy to program a lot when you can type fast.
And that's how I can be productive. Now, of course, if I did not know how to write code, if I tried building an application in a programming language or library I didn't know, then I would take far longer. And then vibe coding might be quicker, though I would still probably go crazy if I had to keep on iterating and asking and describing problems. But yeah, I might be quicker the vibe coding way. However, of course, the alternative to that is that I simply learn the new language, the new library, whatever it is. Now, that will, of course, take.
Is there like an allergy to learning? Is that where we've gotten to? Just like a simple allergy to learning new things? I will say this, that there has definitely been a shift generally, and I can feel it in myself, where convenience is definitely like a really, it's almost like moral to follow convenience in our culture. It always has been. I wouldn't say it's always has been, right? There's a lot of writings. There's a lot of writings about like the pursuit of scientific knowledge for the sake of knowledge and all of that. Like that has most certainly, it has most certainly not always been the case that people just simply fully embrace convenience, right? Whereas I feel like we've fully embraced convenience to the point where anytime you have to do something that's inconvenient, it feels like pain, which feels differently. It feels different than where we're currently at. Prime, you do realize it's not just about convenience, but about speed too. Yeah, I just don't buy the speed thing because that's kind of like a pay me now, pay me later thing, right? Every time you review a higher AI code base, it's just there's so much things that are just like, what the heck has happened here? Like this is just a much harder world to program in, and it's definitely like, yeah, you can most certainly run the 100 with a like really vibing it hard. But you still got you still got 700 left, and that second the 700 meters is going to be way harder now, right? Than it had to be, right? I don't know if moving fast is the ultimate goal. I think one thing we've kind of made this weird kind of notion that moving fast or like getting something up and running as quick as possible is somehow like the highest good. Which I'm not sure if moving fast and getting something there as fast as possible is like, I don't think it's a good in of itself. I think it's good to understand what you're building. It's good to get things out there. It's good to make sure that you're actually building the right thing, right? Like you learn a lot by like just hacking and building something and going, okay, I don't like how this feels. Let's change this up. Let's try to build it in an alternative way. Okay, I do like that. Like that's how I got to Harpoon. Harpoon was me trying like 2 or 3 different experiments before I actually landed on Harpoon. And so, yeah, there was most certainly like speed was very important. So my first versions of it was pretty crappy code just because I wanted to figure out what it is. So like I understand the desire to make something, but there's still like the second half, which is actually making it into something.
Time. But once I have that knowledge, it's an asset no one can take away from me. And the next time I'm going to build something with that language, with that library, I'm going to be faster. And the next time thereafter, I'll be even faster. And I'll reach that point where I'll be very likely be faster again than if I were just vibe coding. So it's an investment.
People are saying, let's see, it's because that's what businesses want. I'm not sure if you can blame this purely on commercial, right? I'm not sure if you can blame this this is what businesses want. I don't really like the idea that there's simply just an externality that exists that you're just like, oh, well, it's just because, the man's out there and that's the reason why you do this. It's just like, I'm not sure. I don't think I buy that as an argument all the time, right? I'm not really a fan of just simply pointing to something external and cloudy and being like, this is always the source of the problems. Because it's not always the source of the problems. It's not always what managers want, which is just get the fastest thing out at all times. Because managers also understand that the moment that a refactor needs to come in and things start slowing down, they also completely lose their jobs, right? I mean, I understand there's bad managers. Like, I get that. I get that. Do they? Yes, I've worked for bad ones. I've worked for great ones, right? Which is always people that ask questions like, hey, is this the right idea? Are you actually doing the right idea, or are we building something that is going to bite us in the ass? Like, right, there's still good managers. I've met plenty of good managers. This is not like there's this kind of weird, this is one of those weird things we have. I would say this is more of a result of Reddit, right? If we're going to paint a cloudy, shadowy person that has morphed everyone's brain, I would say the internet has done a great job as painting all people in a single category as being universally this one way. That's a crazy statement. And you'd never make it, right? Like, you would never normally make this, but now people are claiming all managers are effectively stupid, right? Like, that's kind of crazy. There's plenty of good ones. There's plenty of bad ones. I have met really great managers. I have met really bad managers. I've met them both at the same company. I've worked at, 4 different companies, and I've seen great ones and bad ones. Mostly bad. I can't even say mostly bad. I think mostly bad is, again, I just think that these are terms that you're saying that I don't, maybe for you in your limited view, it's been mostly bad. Maybe for me, I've gotten mostly lucky. I've got like 50-50, right? There's plenty of different reasons. And it also depends also on the company you're working for. If your company you're working for is not making money and they need to do something, you could probably understand why they take shortcuts. We all take shortcuts, right? Like, that isn't, this idea that shortcuts only exist because the manager says so is just like such a lie.
Investment which I make today for future projects. Therefore, of course, vibe coding can definitely be very valuable for people that don't know how to write code, that don't want to learn how to write code, that just want to build one project and they don't want to make that investment of learning the underlying language or library they have to use. It can be very valid for that.
I mean, I most certainly have used AI for that exact reason. Like, there's things that I just don't want to do. I think TJ had a great example. I'm not sure if TJ's still here, but he effectively had to generate a whole bunch of types for some specific binding in Lua and something. I believe it was something along those lines. And it's just like, that's going to take him like 10 hours of going very meticulously through everything and figuring it all out. And instead, it's just like, ask the LLM and in 5 minutes later, boom, you have like the basic boilerplate to get you 85% of the way there. And you can kind of fix things as time goes on, right? Like, that's super cool. Big fan of that, right? Like, that's where I think it's really like, sometimes there's places where it shines so well.
At least if there weren't a couple of other problems I have with vibe coding. But not everyone might have them, of course.
Yeah.
Because the other big problem,
Yeah.
besides the productivity thing I just described, I have with the vibe coding approach is that I definitely would not feel confident shipping code which I did not check, which I maybe don't even understand, even if I were to look at it. Not a good...
Especially if you have like money on the line. Like, just imagine the things that could go wrong. Especially if you're at a company and you're shipping stuff and you just end up shipping like security vulnerabilities that are insane. Like, you could imagine that it would be pretty bad. You know what can generate types? Metaprogramming. Shut up, Pick! Right?
Good feeling for me, because shipping bug-ridden code is one thing. My users might complain, especially my paying users, and that could give me a lot of problems if I'm not Peter Levels. That could give me a lot of problems. But most importantly, I would be worried about security issues, like cross-site scripting attack vectors and holes. Of course, as a human,
by the way, I think cross-site scripting attacks are probably the least of your worries. Like, they're going to happen, but I think the consequences are going to be the least of your worries. I think there's way worse things that could happen.
can't rule out introducing security issues or bugs. We all make mistakes, but as a human with experience, I of course know certain areas, places in my code, certain features I'm building where I should be careful. I know, for example, that if I'm outputting HTML that's generated directly or indirectly by a user of my website.
Hold on. I gotta pee. I just realized I'm just too focused. Dude, I gotta quit. I gotta quit drinking like... Okay, so last night I only got like 4 hours of sleep. Daylight savings always just absolutely wrecks me. So I drank way too many cups of coffee this morning because I normally don't even drink any coffee. I gotta quit doing that where I just like pound a liter of water and then drink 3 cups of coffee and then be shocked that I have to... I'm just like, oh my gosh. What have I done to myself? A liter of water? Yeah. I gotta quit doing that. Yeah, your eyes look sleep deprived. That's because they are. I am in fact tired.
That there is a potential cross-site scripting attack opportunity there. I know things like that. I know that there are certain patterns that should be followed when implementing authentication. I know that there shouldn't be any secrets in my client-side code. So things like my API key for the OpenAI API, that shouldn't be in the client-side code. I know such things. The AI might also know such things, but it might not always keep it in mind. Because, of course, the more...
No, it doesn't know such thing. It's just statistics. We got to quit using this term no. It's just statistics. What is the most likely thing? If you need an API key, it needs access to an API key, it could very well just expose said API key. Like, that's it. That's all it is. It's all it's ever been. It's just stats. There's no knowledge. A will lead to B 99 out of the 100 test cases I saw, so therefore, this is what's here. That could be your API key. You just don't know. If it decides, for whatever dumb reason, that the only way to use your endpoint for your API key is to bring the API key down and then send it up to your endpoint, that's just what it's decided. That's it. Like, that's just what's gonna happen to you. It's not garbage in, garbage out. That's not. I feel like that's also kind of unfair to these. I feel like that's just unfair to these LLMs, right? It's not garbage in, garbage out. It's just simply that as it does training and as it walks through sentences and it's literally saying, what's the next thing? Like, for those that don't know, like the very basics. Hey, that was a thing. For those that don't know the very basics, here's like the simple thing. Let's pretend we have the following sentence. I ate my cat. I know, crazy sentence, right? What the LLM, you can imagine it does, is it takes I ate, and then it takes ate my. And it trains, okay, I gave you I ate. What's the next thing that should come out? And the LLM guesses, his. Well, then it's going to be like, well, some sort of backprop learning. No, what comes out should be my. And then it moves forward. Ate my. What should come out next? My cat, right? And so it just kind of walks through these things in some sort of like fun way that it's going. And there you go. And it trains off this. I'm sure it gets way more complex. This is just like the build an LLM from scratch approach to building something. This is a simplification. It uses LLM byte pairs. I know there's byte. It's called byte pair encoding. There's all this, there's just a lot of stuff that it does. This is just very, very simple looking at it so that you understand kind of what it's doing. And that's why it can produce these things. It's because as you walk, it just is slowly going through what it has been to what should be and just correcting itself over all these different stuff. And then it also has other things that we're not even mentioning, which is attention, which is just yet another MLP effectively, which is going to be like which ones should be focused by other ones. And then it keeps on going, blah, 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 blah. You literally just have like millions upon millions of weights, and that's it. Right? That's all that's going on here. And they all get thrown together for different reasons, and that's that. Right, and so that's how we got the attention is all you need. Yes, attention is so wild. Basically, barely understand the basics. Yeah, I know. Same here. I barely understand anything to do with it. I've read it. I've seen how it's done. I've partially programmed out basic attention stuff. That's it. But I'm just saying, it's not thinking. It's just simply being trained on that. It's like that's the basic thing. That's it. That's
more
it.
complex your code base gets, and if you're just asking for specific features, it is definitely possible that the AI will give you code that does contain certain problems that it might know how to fix. So where the AI could fix them, but that it does not keep in mind or anticipate at the point of time it gives you that code. It can definitely happen. And here we're not even talking about hallucination.
Yeah, so again, back to this whole example. Imagine that there exists a security vulnerability in some percentage of GitHub code. Well, remember, it's doing this thing. So what are the chances what you started to write or what you have has aligned with that certain percentage that just gets the security vulnerability? Or maybe there's a certain case in which it's going to generate that security vulnerability every single time. It's not that the AI says I should or should not leak it. It just simply goes, this is it, right? Like, what happens if it decides to use a Firebase? Firebase is all over the place. There's just a chance you're going to write Firebase, and then the Firebase code, because people don't properly, protect Firebase all the time, it produces what other people have done, which is insecure Firebase code. And then you end up going, whoopsies!
Or the AI being trained on bad practices and stuff like that, which is also a potential problem. So I want to have control. I want to be accountable for my code. I want to know what I ship. I don't feel confident shipping code I don't understand or which I did not check. Other people might feel differently. You can definitely have a mentality where you just ship and you fix errors as they occur, but you then really have to hope that you'll never ship a serious error that could get you into legal or financial problems.
I've done that once, just so you know. Could have got me. Luckily, we caught it. But nonetheless, I'm just saying, even if you know what you're doing, you can actually ship bugs that are so complex that you just, I had a security expert and I had 2 separate software engineers look at it, and not a single one of them saw the problem. It was just by pure accident that we discovered the problem a year and a half later. There was a redonkulous bug that just existed for multiple years because no one thought of it. Whoopsies.
Likely, maybe something you don't care about. I do care about it, and that's why that's not really an option for me. And then there is one last problem I have with vibe
No
coding,
AI. That was
or I can
2016.
see with vibe coding, because I don't have it personally. The whole idea behind vibe coding is that you go with the flow, that you just keep on asking. You don't really have a plan. You don't really care if something doesn't work. You work around it or try random stuff, right? That's the whole idea behind vibe coding. Now, this will very likely not work that well in an environment where plans matter and where you are maybe not working on a project alone. If you are working with colleagues and everyone goes with the flow and just tries out random stuff, that might be a recipe for disaster. If you are working...
Imagine working at a place that has 5 engineers and all of them are just LLMing super hard. Just think about the speed in which that code base, right, just goes, right? There is something about he is correct. There is definitely something that could be very painful, right? The speed in which it grows is just a whole thing. 5 Devons. Imagine multiple Devons running, all of that, just crushing it, right? Have you ever heard about their mantra? Do not fix the bug, just re-roll. Yes, we did. We actually watched that. They're comparing it to image generation, right? And that, in some sense, it's very, very funny because, again, image generation is the perfect example for people who say things that don't understand code. And what I mean by that is, for those that don't understand, is that the whole idea was that, at least with Y Combinator, is that, okay, I'm generating this image and it's not quite correct, so I just kind of re-roll it with the same prompt a bunch of times to see if I can get the exact one I want, or no, I changed a little bit, and then I see if I can get what I want. And there's just this thing that keeps on happening over and over again, and eventually it gets to where I want. And this works with image generation, right? It's a very, very simple why that is just such a a one head take, which is that an entire class of images can fit a problem. There is not an entire class of programming solutions that can fit something. That's not how programming works. Art, you can interpret many different things. There could be pixels that are completely off and you just wouldn't even notice. That just doesn't work with programming. You can't have one pixel off. That's a bug, right? So you have to get the whole image perfectly correct. So it just doesn't work, right? I hate to break this to you. I know you want it. I know you want it to work. And images just feel like a natural extension where you're just like, yeah, absolutely. If I just re-roll the image a bunch, it eventually gets to what I want. And so it should work with programming as well. It's just like, nah, dog, that's just not, they're just literally not the same thing. They're just not the same class of problems.
Working in a company, you typically have project plans. You typically have milestones. You typically have features being assigned to you, and just trying out random stuff and not really caring about a plan, that might not be a great idea in such an environment. So vibe coding might not work that well there. And that's why it's not for me. It might be for you. It might become more of a thing as AIs get better and more reliable, if that is the future we'll see. That could all happen. Some points still hold true, though, like the whole productivity thing, maybe. But we'll see what the future will bring, of course.
Yeah.
But right now, and probably very likely also in the foreseeable future, vibe coding might be nice for some projects you don't really care about, but it also has its problems, I'd say. But what do you say? What do you think about that whole vibe coding way? Have you tried it? Did you maybe get better results than I did in that one demo where I tried to build that mobile app?
I only tried it with Devin, so I would say we got results. It just may not be the results you think we were going to get.
What are your thoughts on it? Let me know in the comments.
Let's see. Let's go to the Primeagen GitHub. Let's go to Chussie 3. All right. Look at this bad boy. Look at that. We made Flappy Bird. Yeah. You can rest it on the bottom. Look at that. This is a purely vibe coded. This is what vibe. Oh, wait. Did you guys just say there's not a kick-ass soundtrack? Consider this auto-generated. Damn, this game got hands. This game got hands, people. So there you go. I know. My Chussie 4 is going to be lit. Dude, it's brain rot. Vibe code and Flappy Turd. Yeah, there you go. That was Flappy Bird. That was 100% created without a single intervention by a human. Pretty nice, huh? Humans only prompted. That's what we got. We got that. We did that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that experience. I mean, I wouldn't be, dude, that pregnant banana. It is, technically, that would be for those that are wondering, that actually is what it would be considered a pregnant banana. Now, you might be thinking that that's pretty good looking. You should also see Chussie 2. By the way, this is we made this video game. Do you like how the bullets can curve around corners? That's a hot anime waifu. Do you like how it moves when I... Dude, the projection in this game is just insane. Look at that. I just moved that guy around a corner. Yeah, get in that wall. Get in that wall. Get in that wall. Yeah. Look at that. I'm killing a hot anime. Oh, my gosh. Oh, no. The hot anime waifu's coming right at me. Coming right at me. Anyways, there you go. AAA game, yeah. Very hot. And the best part is those creatures that you saw were literally called anime waifus. Chussie, a classic Chussie 2 is a fever dream. It really is. So innovative. Chussie waifu it is. So, still better than Call of Duty. It's definitely less buggy than Call of Duty, for sure. Hey, Code Girl, welcome. All right, hey, vibe coding is the future. My guess is it's probably not, at least in any immediate future. I think hopefully everybody at the end of these things just realize there's a lot of time left. You have plenty of time. I wouldn't worry nearly as much. And honestly, if you actually work at a dumb enough company where they're letting go of people just because they think AI is going to take it, notice that it's always the higher ups that have been sold on some sort of vision. And don't worry, in a year, they're going to go, oopsies. Again.